Just like you could learn to ride a bike, just like you could learn to be a Pilates princess, you could also learn how to be that girl. It's crazy, I know, but it's true. And let me tell you how. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your girl, Dyme and we back at it again. This is your first time here, welcome, welcome. Nice to meet you. However, if you're already here and you're already what we consider a part of the babe gang, then you don't need any further introduction. So, what are we gonna talk about today? We're gonna talk about self-concept. What is self-concept, right? Your self-concept is truly the foundation of everything, like we talked about before. Picture it like a sailboat. You might have a boat, right, which is a means for transportation, can get you from point A to point B, right? You might even have a crew. You might have people in your life. You might have people helping you with things. You might have people rooting for you. And then you have your sails on that transportation, which is going to be basically the main function for how your means or mode of transportation moves back and forth. It is the mechanism for how you get to where you need to go, right? And then you have you. What is your mean to push this boat back and forth? It's going to be your sails, right? And so how do your sails work? What do they need in order to move back and forth? They need the wind, and that is your self-concept, right? So basically, how you can look at this is your self-concept is the wind in your sails. If you do not have a self-concept that is strong, that is impenetrable, that is long-lasting and tenacious, no matter what life throws at you, you will find yourself more often than not thrown off of your target. Because if you don't believe that you are in the spaces and worthy and fully understanding that you are deserving of what it is that you want, you may not always attack it in the way that you need to, or you will get the things that you need and attack it. However, when you get there, you won't fully feel like you embody the things that you need in order to remain there. You might end up having some level of imposter syndrome, or you may just never fully feel satisfied, if that makes any sense. And so I want to make sure that we understand what self-concept is and why you need it. Another reason you need self-concept is that you are utilizing this, again, like we talked about, the wind in your sails, to literally navigate every situation in your life. So if you are experiencing a moment in time where you don't have a strong sense of self-concept, you're going to settle for things that are lackluster or not really what you want, but it's going to be due to the fact that you feel like this is what you deserve. You feel like this is more fitting for you. I'm currently reading a book called Cybernetics, and it really attacks every single little nuance to self-concept. And it got me to thinking. A lot of us probably settled for negative situations or accepted poor experiences due to the fact that we believe that this is just what we get. This is just what we deserve. This is just the life that, these were just the cards we were dealt. And a lot of times we are not that powerless, right? We are actually not powerless at all. And so this is why your self-concept needs to be airtight. It needs to be unfuckwittable. Please excuse my language, okay? We need to be information as it pertains to how we feel about us. Now, let's talk about how you develop self-concept, whether negative or positive. So there are about three different things, three main points, or three pillars rather, that make up self-concept. And number one is how we feel about ourselves, right? And it's a main pillar because there are other subsets that come up under that. But the main thing is, how do we feel about ourselves? Do we feel like we're deserving? Do we feel like we're that girl? Do we feel like we deserve, you know, lavish trips and gifts? Does it rest on something we believe in? Is it true, the idea that we have about us, right? How do we feel about ourselves? There are several different things that make that up. However, that is the main pillar, right? Then there's number two. What do we believe that we can do? What is your self-belief? Do you think that you're strong? Do you think that you're smart? What do we believe about our ability? who we are, what we do. What do we believe about ourselves, right? Because feeling is not always belief, right? You can feel sad, but believe you can do it. You get what I'm saying? Okay. So, and then number 3, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a fun-loving girl with boundaries that's able to draw the line when needed? Or do you see yourself as a weak, shy girl who needs help with every single thing that she does? The main 3 things are, how do you feel about yourself? What do you believe you can do? How do you see yourself? So let's talk about really like making this whole thing beautiful, right? So the first thing is this. Say you don't have such a great self-concept right now. That's absolutely okay. Because guess what? The great news is that we can fix that. We can fix, just like you can learn to ride a bike, just like you can learn to be a Pilates princess, you could also learn how to be that girl. It's crazy, I know, but it's true. And let me tell you how. So number 1, let's talk about daily deposits. The only way to build a muscle is to consistently work at it. Daily deposits. Self-talk is definitely something that you want to kind of start with, right? Which I mentioned a few weeks back. But it goes into the pot of affirmation. Now, affirmations will not fix everything, but as you may have heard before, the best way to eat an elephant is piece by piece. So a daily deposit will be very helpful in that regard. When you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself, wow, you're beautiful. Even if you don't believe it on the first day, keep saying it. Keep saying it. Eventually you will believe it. This is also, conversely, how people with mental illness work, right? They will tell themselves a story and eventually believe it. The same thing goes. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference, baby. I know it feels silly at first, but you go in that mirror and you tell yourself every day that you're beautiful, eventually you will believe it. This is what we call sexy delusion, right? It ain't sexy when it's counterproductive, but it's sexy when it's productive, right? Because remember, when you have a grand self-concept, we're not talking about illusions of grandeur. We're talking about self-concept, which is rooted in something that we believe, right? We talked about that, how we feel, what we believe, and how we look at ourselves, like how we see ourselves, right? And we truly work on that. That is going to dictate how far we go and how we operate once we arrive at those destinations. So remember, this is your most important tool. You need to feel good in order to see good. It alters your perception. How you feel about yourself will alter your perception because this is the root of projection, right? And we'll talk about more things in videos that are soon to come as we talk about projections. However, you ever met a girl and she just nasty but she thinks everybody else don't like her? It's typically because she doesn't like herself and she's projecting that idea onto others. It's important that you are able to feel beautiful, see yourself as beautiful, and also believe it. You feel me? Okay, so daily deposits. You go from that, you loop in affirmations. What are some things that are bothering you that you feel like, you know, really have kept you down? That's where we start getting to more self-work, because you're going to want to affirm those voids. You're going to want to make sure you pour into those places that are empty. And the best way to do that is to figure out what places are empty. You're going to want to get into shadow work. I have not done a video about shadow work yet, but I will. But you want to talk about your shadows, child. You want to get to the bottom of really like what's making me tick. Now, how do you get into shadow work? There are lots of videos on YouTube on how to look into shadow work and how to possibly find master classes or different things like that that will help you delve into that. However, once you get comfortable with your shadows and your voids, you will figure out how to fill them. So that's another step that I would suggest as far as daily deposits go when it comes to really finding affirmations that feed whatever your personal deficits are. However, outside of daily deposits with affirmations, you're going to want to also loop in self-talk, right? Not just, hey girl, you're beautiful, you're smart, you can do this, you can get anything done. You know, not just those affirmations, but you're also going to want to loop in self-talk. When you make a mistake, oh, my stupid ass. No, we don't say that. We don't do that anymore. When you feel embarrassed, you don't say anything that's self-depreciating. You don't make jokes that are self-depreciating in order to entertain other people. You don't do that. We don't do that anymore because it's not productive. And honestly, why would you want to make yourself the butt of a joke, right? Like, what's the point in that? Now everybody's laughing at you instead of with you, and now you're not even really laughing. right? Because you don't really think it's funny. You just want to point out your flaws so nobody else does. And we're not going to do that, right? So we want to practice positive self-talk. When you make a mistake, you're going to want to say, you know what? Sometimes I messed up. I'm not perfect, but every day I get better, right? You see how you acknowledge the mistake. You see how you also understand that you're not geared to know everything at one time. You also understand that you won't always be making the same mistake because every day you get better. You want to be honest with yourself, but you want to talk to yourself in a way that is gainful instead of depreciating, okay? So we want to also talk about self-talk in a way that is helpful to ourselves because, again, while we talked about projection, if we feel that way about ourselves, people make mistakes, but it's not permanent. Every day we learn. You know what now believing that will do for you? Now when you are encountering people in a workspace, in a personal space, in a space outside of yourself, you are able to lead with more grace, right? Grace that is accountable still, but grace that understands, child, we messed up, but it's okay. You have an opportunity to do better. And I understand that this is not personal because we do make mistakes. That will also offset being self-conscious sometimes because instead of thinking everybody in the room is thinking about that button that you're missing on your favorite shirt, you're probably thinking they're not thinking about me. Everybody has their own worries and concerns, right? Because I'm human, so they probably are thinking about other human things that involve them as well. That would also assist with you feeling confident about the fact that other people too believe that you're human and you make mistakes and that you're not meant to be perfect. Again, what we believe about ourselves, our conditioning, we also view the world that way, right? And so what do we call it? Sexy delusion. When we are able to view something in a way that is gainful, that is helpful, that will really charge up our trajectory, we go that way. We don't go the way that's going to be depreciating, harmful, or subtracting to our success or abundance anyway. We don't do that, okay? Rule of thumb. All right, so next thing, you're going to also want to really sign yourself up for positive experiences, high level experiences, upper echelon experiences, right? So don't pick that guy that's mean to you. Don't do it. Don't pick that girl that's mean to you as a friend, as a lover, whatever, right? Because the thing is that what we most consume, we will believe. Your subconscious is always there, baby. Even when you're not, your subconscious is there. So it's kind of like, oh, my mind been gone. Okay, but your mind was listening to every other thing, which is why a lot of people who practice, you know, cybernetics or different things like that are really into subliminals. Because while you might not be able to conceive on the forefront, your subconscious is picking up everything that goes on around you. So if you're listening to a whole bunch of music that's like rob, kill, steal, nobody's worth anything, I'm just ready to die, at some point subconsciously you will not be revved up to try again, start anew, be optimist, right? The same way if you're listening to motivational things that are always in the background, right? Then eventually you'll start to feel like there's, you know, there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and the rainbows do come even though it rains. You might feel differently, so we want to make sure that we're not around people who are constantly talking to us crazy or constantly telling us things that are not true, meaning it's all bad, it ain't no good, it ain't gonna get no better, everything sucks, you suck, see, this is why I don't be talking to you, you ain't good enough for me, what are you gonna be without me? We get rid of those people because they're damaging, not just to our ego, which, believe it or not, ego is needed in order to be healthy, right? But it's just a balance. Not just like damaging to our ego, we also are setting ourselves up to damage our self-concept overall. And again, what we talk about, self-concept is the wind in our sails that help us dictate what direction we're going in. So we want to make sure that we get rid of those people. When you constantly are talking to people who are not telling you things rooted in love and direction, but are telling you things that are just to tear you down, you got to get rid of those people. Because they damaging your psyche. They're chemically changing your mind about how you feel about you. So it's you or them, baby. Sacrifice them. Let them go. Because anybody who loves you, cares for you, is good for you, will not tear you down. Right? So those friends making those little small remarks like, I see your little job. I know that's right. I see you're a big job. You on your big one. My friend's a big girl. Yeah. If you don't have anybody talking to you like that, do we really need to be friends? Gotta be thinking big. Okay? You just gotta always be thinking big. Also, that leads to you want to make sure that you're not involving yourself in things that you know are going to set you up for a change in your mind that is negative. If you know, hey, whenever I overspend, I end up going into a tailspin and I feel crazy. And then I can't pay my bills. And then we start backsliding back into self-loathing, not feeling like we have enough, that poverty mindset. And then now I feel like I can't ever get it right. You know, doing that is going to make you feel crazy. So what if the first 3 times you have the urge, you don't do it? Just to see what it's like, right? We want to also make sure we self-correct along the way. You will make mistakes because obviously this is probably grown as a habit. But again, this is how we conduct an internal audit. Our mind does not know the difference between what's true and what's fake. So we have to make sure that we are guarding and protecting our self-concept at all times. And if you need support, i.e. therapy, taking some master classes, doing that shadow work that I mentioned a few weeks back, these are the ways that you can support these self-audits and support these positive habits going forward, okay? So that you can start having a stronger handle on, number one, how do I feel about me, right? What do I believe about me? And then how do I see my personality? Right? So really what you can do today as homework is you can start with those 3 things. Ask yourself those 3 questions and figure out what you'd like to change, right? Do currently you feel shy, withdrawn, and isolated because you don't feel like you make good friends and because you believe like you don't have anything to offer? What things are needed to change that? You're also, I don't want to lean too heavily on this because a lot of people seem to get caught up in like buying and paying for things, and that's not really necessary to care for self. But self-care, how are you participating in your personal upkeep? Are you caring for yourself? Simple hygiene does not need to be press-ons or acrylic sets or blown out wigs. It doesn't need to be that. It can simply be well maintained. A nice ponytail, a uniform that works for you. I personally like workout sets and bodysuits. I'm not really someone who is a fashionista. My personal style is based on comfort and functionality. And so that's me. I've developed my personal style. And that's okay for me. I also don't do a lot of color. But we want to talk about self-care in that way. Are we caring for ourselves with, if we can't afford to get our nails done and get installs every 2 weeks, are we able to file our nails, do a nice clear coat, take time to care for ourselves in terms of meditation, in terms of quiet time that is specifically set aside for us to do whatever it is, right? Whether it's 10, 20, 30, an hour, something that is dedicated, just this is my time. Are we able to participate in something that is gainful in terms of making us feel beautiful? How are you able to feel cared for in a physical sense? Because again, something that I know you have heard before, when you look good, you feel good. And looking good does not need to be glam. Looking good can be well maintained. Okay, develop your own understanding of what self-care is. It doesn't need to be super expensive. It's not out of your reach. Okay, so that's another thing that we want to discuss. Looking good is feeling good and taking care of ourselves as well. Self-care can also be, are we eating well? Are we coming up with time to come up with some level of a meal plan? It doesn't need to be extensive. Are you taking care of your heart, your mind, your body? Are you looking good? Are you clean? Are you put together? That's literally it. And we can all find ways of doing this in an affordable way. Another thing that I've been doing to foster my self-concept is journaling. I created a 2025 Bible basically for what I'm looking for this year and mapped out my goals and did those things. And one of the things that I have looped in is like a daily journaling or a daily audit or habit tracker or whatever. And there are a couple things there. And number one is what went well today. You know, it's a way for me to encourage myself. Like, well, this went well. I might feel like I'm in a bad mood right now, but maybe I am really a badass because this went well today, right? Or, you know, I know everything's not perfect, but this did go well. And so that is reinforcing to me that even when there can be 100 things going wild, there can be at least one thing that makes the madness worth it, right? And so I asked myself that question. I also asked myself, what did I do today that I'm proud of? Did I do anything that I'm proud of that makes me happy? That, like, you know, Dyme, you did good today. Those people played in your face, and you know what? You handled it like a G. You responded professionally, gracefully, beautifully, right? Those things boost my self-concept too, because it reminds me, hey girl, you are actually working. You're doing the work. And because you're doing the work, you are able to sail through a little smoother. And the journaling helps me to reinforce who I am, what I do, and what I believe about myself. I also talk about how I've shown up in the ways that I believe about myself, because it reaffirms my belief about myself. Like if I say, well, I'm a very kind girl. I'm a kind girl. I look out for people and I want to make sure that they do well. I ask myself, hey, Dyme, what did you do today that was kind? How did you show kindness to others? Right? And that helps me to reinforce myself, or to remember that there is something to shoot for tomorrow. Right? So these are other ways: journaling, self-care, daily deposits, choosing decisions that affirm where I'm trying to go, as well as making sure that, you know, people in my crew or people around me don't derail me, are very important. Before I go, I want to leave you guys with some books that you guys might appreciate if you guys are into reading. And if you guys are not into reading, I personally have a Audible subscription. And so I know that I move around and I'm busy and I have a lot of stuff going on. And sometimes I'm not even always consciously paying attention to my books, which is bad because I'm working on it. But I want to suggest some books that you can listen to on Audible if you are not a reader, or you can go out and purchase if you are a reader. Okay, and so number one, Psycho-Cybernetics. I'm currently reading that and I'm working through that book, and it's really good because the author of the book used to work in aesthetics and plastic surgery, and learned that there were things about people that led them to want to go and get augmentations of whatever kind, and a lot of it began with how they believed certain concepts about themselves, which led him to then write a book about self-concept. And that book is by Maxwell Maltz, I believe his name is. And then there is another book called Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits, I've skimmed through a little bit, but I did not finish. Again, I'm doing better with that. Atomic Habits is by James Clear, and I know that that book is really good as it pertains to building habits, figuring out like mentally what has been holding you back with staying on task with habits. I did not finish the book, however I did get far enough in it to understand the concept of it. And then also there's another book that I have not been able to read just yet, but I've heard a lot about, and that book is by Brene Brown, and that book is called The Gifts of Imperfection. So I want to encourage you guys to look into those 3 books. There are so many books out there that work on self-concept. However, I don't want to overload you with information. Have you read any of those books? Put them down in the comments and let everybody know. Or if you have another suggestion, go ahead and put it in the comments. Outside of these things, I want to also encourage you guys to look into whatever resources that you need in order to propel your life, your self-concept, and your trajectory for abundance forward. I know that currently I've been using ChatGPT to really help with my self-concept, and I will do a video on how ChatGPT has assisted me with my self-concept, but also I have been utilizing it to help me understand certain things so that I am not just walking around babbling about things that I don't know to be true. Sometimes the key between you being you and you being the best version of you is a piece of information. And so we want to make sure we're utilizing our resources to really hone in on our awareness and our understanding of that information, because why would you want to be at a 1 when you can be at a 1,000, right? Okay. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys on the next one, and I look forward to you guys really boosting your self-concept and really understanding, feeling, and believing that you are that girl and you belong in that place. Okay, bye.